All right, welcome back to my channel on YouTube here. Since I'm located here in North Carolina, not too far away from the Haas F1 US headquarters, I thought it might be interesting to talk about Haas F1 Motorsports and Haas in general and how they approach racing. So today we're going to take a look at Gene Haas, his history in racing, his history with NASCAR, and his history with Formula One. How do they compare? And maybe we can answer the question, should Haas stay in Formula One? Why would they maybe stay in Formula One? Are they competitive enough to do so? But more importantly, I think, how does Gene Haas determine what he considers success to stay in a motorsport? So we got the history of Haas up here on the board. So we're going to start with NASCAR. Gene Haas founded his NASCAR team in 2002. And right off the bat, he started partnering with Hendrick Motorsports, which is a monster team in NASCAR, if you're not familiar. They had the drivers like Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson, who have won an incredible amount of championships over the years. They got their engines, cars, and tech support from them. Over the next 5 to 6 years, Haas NASCAR team in the top series would struggle quite a bit. They would go through an entire plethora of race car drivers, mostly B, C, and D level drivers. Not too many people of notable name here. I'll point them out. But in the first 6 years, they went through Jack Sprague, John Andretti, Jason Leffler, Ward Burton, Mike Bliss, Jeff Green, and Scott Riggs, all in about a 5-year period. Of those drivers, the only two that ever had wins in the top series were John Andretti and Ward Burton, to my knowledge. Ward Burton, of course, winning the Daytona 500 in 2002, probably the biggest name they brought in. Jeff Green did have a championship in the Busch Series. That would be like the equivalent of the F2 Series in NASCAR. Scott Riggs was a really talented road racer, but overall, they're kind of cycling through drivers, sometimes 2 or 3 drivers per year. Everything would change for Haas in his history in 2008 when he was able to brokerage a deal to bring in 2-time Top Series champion Tony Stewart. In that deal, Tony Stewart would acquire 50% of ownership of the team, and in 2009, they would change the name to Stewart-Haas Racing. With Tony Stewart coming in, you're getting a 2-time champion, but you're also getting sponsorship money, which was a big deal for them, and the ability to sign top talent. After Tony Stewart came in, they initially signed Ryan Newman, who had a ton of wins in the top series, no championships to date, still running there, but they're able to bring in drivers like former champion Kurt Busch, Kevin Harvick, who would win his first title there. We'll get to that in a minute. Some really good young talent. Right now they have Eric Amarillo and Cole Custer, and top names like Danica Patrick, who, yes, was a failed experiment, but they were still able to sign her when every team was trying to sign her for that sponsorship money. Also of note, they signed Daniel Suarez for 1 year. Didn't work out there. But let's take a look at what happens after 2009, Stewart-Haas Racing. They would go on to win 60 wins, 47 poles, and 2 driver championships in the top series. Tony Stewart doing it himself as a driver owner. The first driver owner to win in the top series since 1992's Alan Kulwicki. And Kevin Harvick would leave a very good team in Richard Childress Racing to come to Stewart-Haas and score his first title win. In 2017, Stewart-Haas Racing switches from Chevy to Ford. This was a big deal for 2 reasons. One, Tony Stewart actually left Joe Gibbs Racing largely in part because they switched to Toyota, and Stewart always had a relationship with Chevy, and he wanted to continue that relationship. However, the team was able to see 1 or 2 steps ahead and notice that Ford's development in the top series of NASCAR was outperforming the development of the other teams, and that would be a huge deal because Ford, the last 2 or 3 years in the NASCAR top series, has been right there with Toyota, arguably even better. They're scoring wins left and right, and they look pretty dominant so far this season. So they're able to kind of see 1 or 2 steps ahead there, make a decision, and switch over to Ford. In 2020, this year alone, they have 5 wins in this early season. 4 of them for Kevin Harvick, who is definitely a favorite for the title, along with probably Denny Hamlin and maybe Joey Logano. And also of note, rookie Cole Custer scored his first win. First rookie to win in the top series in NASCAR in many years. So Stewart-Haas Racing is a huge success. They're one of the top teams in NASCAR. Everybody wants to drive for them. They're right there with Gibbs. Probably ahead of Penske, I would say. They're kind of close right there with them. But ahead of Hendrick, RCR, Roush, some of the other top teams. And they did that really in just 15 years, whereas teams like Roush, Hendricks, and Gibbs have been around way longer than Gene Haas and Stewart-Haas Racing. But the game changer there was that deal with Tony Stewart, and I think that's what he's trying to do in Formula One. So we'll switch over. Let's take a look at their Formula One team now. Gene Haas announced that they were going to be joining Formula One in 2014 when they were founded. They delayed their 2015 debut and debuted in 2016 instead. Just like in NASCAR with Hendrick Motorsports, they created a partnership with Ferrari, and they got their power units and a lot of their parts from Ferrari. I thought this was kind of funny, so I decided to put this in there. In 2018, Force India said that Haas was copying Ferrari and complained to the media about it, which is really interesting since Racing Point right now is getting a lot of those complaints about being the pink Mercedes. But that was a huge complaint back in 2018, and you could see why. Off the bat, for a brand new team, in 2016, they're going to announce Romain Grosjean and Esteban Gutierrez to be their drivers, and they have a pretty good first year. 8th in the points for constructors, not the greatest, but for a brand new team, they score a 5th place finish as their best. They score points in their debut, which is also really big. 29 points overall. They do have 10 DNFs in that season. 2017, they announced Kevin Magnussen would be joining the team, and it's Grosjean and Magnussen from there on out. They're going to finish 8th in the constructor points again, 6th place best finish, but their points go up to 47, and they bring down their retirements to just 8 that year. In 2018, they're going to go up to 6th in the constructor points. They have a really great year, strong year in 2018. 4th place best finish, just missing the podium. 93 points, which is huge. 8 retirements again. However, 2019, most notably for all you F1 fans, was the Rich Energy deal, which I'm going to talk about a little bit more in a second. But they fall back to 9th in the constructor points. They get a 6th place best finish. 28 points on the season, a major fallback, their worst season in Formula 1 to date. 8 retirements. And so far in 2020, they're again in 9th in the constructor. 10th place is their best finish, which was just the last race. And you heard Kevin Magnussen on the radio. They celebrated that like it was a win because of how slow these cars have actually been this year. A great call to get those drivers in and switch to slicks before everyone else. And they really kind of battled the rest of that Grand Prix just to stay in the points. Grosjean falling out, kind of taking one for the team to make sure Magnussen got in there. He did finish 9th in that race, but a penalty afterwards knocked him back to 10th. And because of that, they only have 1 point on the season. And I think anyone who's been watching Formula 1 this year would not be surprised if that's the only point they get this season. I certainly hope that's not the case, but the way things are going in Formula 1, the way things are going for Haas, and maybe more importantly, the way things are going for Ferrari and Ferrari power units, I think Haas is really going to struggle because of that. And they've already had 2 retirements this season in just 3 Grand Prix, so not a great start. Things of note moving forward for Haas F1, Grosjean and Magnussen are out of contract this year. They do have some good academy drivers coming up through the Ferrari Academy, but really notable that Steiner said that at the moment he is not hiring anybody. So the questions have been circling around, will Gene Haas pull out of Formula 1? Or will he stick it out? Looking at these 2 organizations, I think he should stick it out. His first 6 years in NASCAR were horrendous. These teams were battling for 14th, 15th as their best finishes, but mostly in NASCAR, he was running largely between 25th and 35th weekly until he made that deal with Tony Stewart. And I look at 2019 in Formula 1 with that huge deal with Rich Energy, which blew up in their face, but I think that's what Gene Haas is looking for. He's looking for a partner to come in, whether it be a big-time sponsor or maybe a part owner of this team, to help take him to that next level. Step 1, get your foot in the door, create a partnership, low cost, which he did both NASCAR and Formula 1, kind of get the infrastructure and lay the foundation, and then make that deal to push it to that next level. And I think that's what Gene is looking for right now, is a Tony Stewart in Formula 1 to help get this team on the top end of the midfield and maybe be competing for podiums every once in a while. Unfortunately, sometimes things blow up in your face. The Rich Energy deal was, everyone that watched that happen on social media with what went down there. It could not have been a worse deal, and I think that's why we're seeing possibilities of Gene Haas maybe pulling out. That said, I also think he maybe laid the foundation for this low-cost type of Formula 1 racing that it seems that we might be moving towards in 2022. I think it would be a real shame if Gene Haas decided to pull this team out prior to at least seeing what they could do in 2022 and 2023 with some of the financial limitations in development that the other teams are going to be seeing. I think there's a great opportunity for them to maybe take that next step. They definitely need some sponsorship money, though, and maybe another owner to come in. As someone who is a US-based Formula 1 fan, Haas Racing is one that I'd really like to see be successful in Formula 1. I'm located where I live maybe 20 minutes from their shop here in North Carolina, so it's kind of a thrill to see this team out there. I was rooting for them heavily this week. I do think they have some driver issues. I don't want to hate on Roman Grosjean or Kevin Magnussen, but I do think 4 or 5 seasons of watching them race, it might be time to at least change it up a little bit. With what's going on at Racing Point and Sebastian Vettel, possibly Sergio Perez might be a driver they can go after. And, you know, they definitely have some drivers in the Ferrari Academy that they could promote, since Ferrari has their 2 drivers for the next few years. So what do you think? Do you think Haas Racing is going to survive to 2022, 2023? Do you think they should stay in Formula One? Would you like to see them in Formula One? Let me know in the comments below. And once again, thank you for watching another video.